Validation, validating your sons. Okay, this is something I think as fathers, it's not up for delegations. I mean, it will happen. Other men will validate your sons, which is, it takes a tribe, a village to raise a man, absolutely. But when it can come the first time from a father to a son, it's the best, and I'll talk a little bit later about what it'll do. I actually think it's sort of the basis of every male relationship, when that validation comes from your father first. If we haven't been validated, we won't understand the process. And I suppose there's nothing worse, I think there's nothing worse than when you hear a lot of talk and no action. And particularly our sons, man, they know. I mean, as a man, you know if somebody's been tested. You know if they're a hypocrite, saying one thing and doing another. So I think there's nothing worse than when I know in the past, growing up or even as an adult, I've had people, other men encourage me, which is great, it's awesome, but it's lip service. They haven't been tested. So as a father, man, we need to be testing ourselves on a consistent basis, which, I'm going to talk about in a minute. You'll have heard me say maybe before, if you've listened to me before, I believe in the DNA of every man is a warrior. We're actually built for a challenge. We're built for adversity. We actually come alive when our back's against the wall and we've got to come out fighting, But when you haven't been validated, man, you will second guess yourself. You will maybe even at times feel like I'm an imposter. I can't pull this off. As we go through, and particularly I talk about it in my Rite of Passage for the Modern Man ebook, where I'll talk about the different stages, but particularly as a 12, 13 till 18, 20, that is the warrior stage. That is the stage where we need to be tested. We actually long for it, to know that we're tough enough, we're good enough, we're strong enough. And that age will vary, depending on the culture, the environment that you live in. You'll be able to pick it in a young bloke when he starts getting around puffing his chest out. He'll be in there. He's looking for a test. He's looking for something to measure himself against. He won't understand what he's doing, but when you've been through this process, you'll understand. You'll be able to pick it maybe in a young bloke. Maybe you got a son who's maybe 10 or 9 or whatever age, And as I said, depending on the environment. So for example, right, when we go through those teenage years, and that warrior is being developed, because there's opportunities everywhere for us to test ourselves. And I believe if we can do it the right way, it will save our sons a lot of pain. Okay, and particularly this son I'm going to talk about today, Denzel. He has been in this environment. He's heard this his whole life. He's talked about it, from when he was a kid, like from when he could first walk, he was trying to put boxing gloves on. He was putting boxing gloves on in my gym, okay, because he's heard these stories. I mean, he's heard everything. Share everything with him. But I could see it as a boy, man. He's looking to test himself. And you're probably seeing we see this. Girls will just gravitate to dolls, and boys will want to play with trucks and throw them and see how tough they are. That's what we do. But so as a part of, and I'll tell you, many great men, I run a boxing program for men that have never had a boxing match. So imagine 10 weeks time, you're having a fight and you've never had a fight before, let alone a boxing match or anything like that. So it was always about who I needed to become. So it was a very good way we could develop men, okay? In this warrior aspect. And a lot of men would develop themselves in this aspect as of being a warrior, and they go, man, if I can do that, if I can get up in front of 800 or 1,000 people and never had a fight and give my best, and by the way, technique normally went out the window when the bell went. But it was what was developed inside them what actually got them through, you know. And so I'd run that for like 10, 11 years and even 12 years when I started to change things up, men testing themselves. So my son Denzel grew up watching this, okay? And one of the things was when, because I had, men would go through and say, Gav, I'm not leaving, I'm staying at the gym, you know, so I'd start the next group of men. And so I started a group called the Better Men, you know, because we're always about better, making better husbands, fathers, sons, leaders. So we made this, you know, become like a charity, and we've done so much great work. But the men, there was always more men helping. Yeah, you know, so like there'd be 40 blokes in the gym and maybe 20 of them were, you know, we're doing the Fight Like a Pro 2024, but the actual group was up to 90 at one stage of better men. So there was always so many more men. And anyway, a bit of a tradition started, was that you would, every time it was your birthday, you get tested again. So depending on who turned up, who out of the betterment turned up that day, it was your birthday, man, you'd have to box everyone, you know. And it just goes straight normal. I remember Cole, you know, just an absolute legend. Okay, a legend in the boxing. You know, he was a, you know, Australian champion, you know, a dozen times, and just a great man, great one for helping others, always looking out for others. He was, you know, like, man, he was just like almost running the show, you know. He was like my right hand for years. I mean, there was quite a few men that helped me over the years, but obviously, you know, Cole was a real standout. But I remember one time, and this is, we're talking about, you know, yeah, it was his 50th birthday, and everyone, you know, turned up to jump in there to give him a birthday round, you know, and I remember Denzel, right, jumping in the ring. He wanted to be, he understood we need to be validated, initiated. We need each other to do this. So, you know, he's in there. It's amazing, you know. So obviously, you know, I mean, not obviously, but it was obvious for him that, you know, it was his 13th birthday recently. Man, he needed a test. He wanted to show that he's good enough. He wanted to prove to himself. He just understood. That's the culture of men. We test ourselves on a regular basis. So let's cut to that. Focus. 3, 2, time. 1 to go. This is where you get to make a decision. Yeah? The decision's on the inside, son.
Make your decision, D.
Yeah.
Make the decision about what you want, who you want to be.
Let's go.
Make the decision.
Last one.
I'm so proud of you, D. I'm so proud of you. 60 seconds. Come on, 60 seconds. Come on.
Good man. Love you, mate. Good man. And, you know, to say that I'm proud of you does not come close, mate. And the thing is, you know, like that was over 20 minutes. Two strong men who know your every move and put the pressure on for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It's hard, you know, and you did it, mate. You did it. And every time you do something like that, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get stronger. Good work. Love you, mate. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Stay there. So the point of that is to show him he's good enough, he's tough enough, he's strong enough. So there's nothing worse than when men are hypocrites, okay? So the idea of, my elder son Jay, me, pushing Denzel, doing over 20 minutes straight. We had a couple of breaks while we're putting gloves on, we'll give him a drink of water, but that's hard. And you might have even noticed, like, he went through, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, he went through a range of different emotions. And that's the whole idea, is when you're going through this testing period, that, man, you get the Jiminy Brits, you're not happy, it's not fair. We learn to control that aggression, we learn to control our emotions. You see, even at one stage, I think he got a bit of a tear in his eye. He was angry, but he learnt to keep going. And that's the whole idea of validating our sons, that life is hard, it's tough, but you're good enough, you're tough enough, you're strong enough. And when we do that with them, man, that's where they get an opportunity to build character, to build self-worth, to build self-esteem, to look themselves and say, hey, man, I toughed it out. And I do this because I remember, I remember, because as a father, we've got to create opportunities for our sons like this. 13th birthday, great opportunity, okay? But I remember different opportunities that my dad created. And I don't even know whether he exactly knew, but he seen the opportunity. Like, he didn't know, I don't think he ever set out to do it, but he understood. So I remember there was a time, one time where he pulled me aside, and he sat me down, because there was some certain hardships going on in our life, in business, in sport, in me growing up, trying to, find my way, as a teenager. I remember he grabbed me and he said, listen to me. He talked to me about how tough my mother was, and how tough he was, and how certain things, how they just toughed it out and they got through. And he said, man, Gav, you're tough enough, you're strong. He spoke validation into me, And I remember at certain points, even when I was boxing, okay, in a boxing ground, coming up through the ranks, I remember coming up against fighters, actually in fights, thinking, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know if I can make it through this round. I don't know if I can do it. But because I remember, under extreme pressure, like you've seen with Denzel, under pressure, like he wasn't, he was, it's not like he was getting hurt, but he was given everything that he had. And that's what this life's about, teaching. That's what I believe about raising our sons. A very important point is teaching them to give everything they've got to whatever it is they want to do, So obviously, we need to show them that they're strong enough, they're tough enough. Through this boxing is just one way of doing it. But I remember my father, going through different hardships, and he recognised that I was doing it tough in certain things. And he sat me and he said, you're strong enough, you're tough enough, you're good enough. And I remember it coming back at those times when I didn't think I could do it, but I heard my dad's voice. I remembered certain things that he spoke into me. And I remember thinking, at one particular fight, I think, man, he punches twice, I'll just come back three punches. He punches 3, I'll come back 4. He punches 4, I'll come back 5. He can't out-tough me. I know I can out-tough him. He might be faster, stronger, better, but he will not out-tough me, And I remember coming through fights where thinking, hang on, this bloke's taking a backward step. I am tougher, And I think in situations, that's what we're teaching our sons. Sometimes you just got to tough it out. You just got to hang in there. So the way that we did this today was about that, showing him he's tough enough, he's good enough. And as I said earlier, this cannot be delegated. And my other son who was there as well, I've done exactly the same with him time and time and time again as he's getting older. And now, of course, he's got the confidence, the boldness that any man's got. That he's probably got the best, maybe too much at times. But when I say too much, you can't have too much. But because life's a great teacher. I've been taught by life. But I think when you go through this, and a very important part of doing this with our sons is teaching them humility. So that when tough times come out there, hey, it's all good. I'm humble. I've been humbled before, And when that's done by somebody who loves you, you see how I got emotional telling my son what I see in him. It's the best. We can't delegate this fatherhood, And in fact, I believe, I've been used. God has used me to father a lot of other men that obviously are not my sons, men that are older than me. So, men, can I ask you, share this video with another man today. Share this with somebody who you know will benefit from, whether they haven't been fathered or whether they need to step up and start fathering other men or their own sons. So who needs to hear this? Share it with them. Share it on your Facebook, whatever. Let's change the world one man at a time. Hey, I got this young bloke here now. I wanted to ask him a couple of questions. How's that sound? I mean, son, what was that like?
Yeah, it was different. I was definitely going through different emotions. I could feel it every time it was getting harder, just sitting back and just powering on.
Yeah.
Like I'm a toffee.
Yeah.
Got more in me.
and I suppose, you say that, all right, you're a top, that you got more in you. I mean, far out, you've seen men your whole life get tested and challenged. I mean, what does it feel like knowing that you're of the age now to get tested?
Yeah, good. I'm excited. Good test.
and man, this is the opportunity that we've got. All of us have got this, So what would you say to any dad that maybe wants to protect his son from hardship?
Stop protecting him because you can't protect him forever. Whenever the time comes that you can't protect him, he's just going to get weak. He's not going to be able to grow. And he's just going to fall down. And then he'll learn it older in life.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, this is unrehearsed, right? I'm straight off the bat grunting. But that's just it. You better learn this hardship now in an environment that's going to build him up than randomly, because life, like we said, life will teach you the hard way. It'll teach you. So hey, listen, men, share this with somebody who will benefit from. Maybe share it with your son. Maybe if you're a young bloke, share it with your dad. Share it with a mate. Hey, let's change the world. All right, buddy.